nudibranchs are a pretty cool, extremely diverse group of marine gastropods, and they're simultaneous hermaphrodites with no sex chromosomes. So you've heard a lot about how important sex chromosomes are for the evolution of reproductive isolation. So what happens when you don't have them? And you're going to hear a little bit more later about why we think that the evolution of reproductive isolation actually proceeds slower without sex chromosomes. So if that's true, how do we end up with speciation? And what I've been thinking a lot about is how ecological isolation could play a larger role in these types of taxa. And so these nudibranchs that live on corals are basically coral parasites. They have these crazy cool adaptations to their coral host, mostly for camouflage. So they not only match color, but the texture of their coral host, or even the patterning. You can see this one. I can show you later if you can't find it. And they can even be transparent and just turn whatever color of the thing they're eating as well. So I'm not going to talk about the evidence I have for ecological speciation in this group because I have another talk tomorrow on that. But instead I'm going to use this time to talk about what we don't know. So we know that they can only mate with individuals on their coral host, and that their larvae have a pelagic dispersal phase, and they use a chemical cue from the coral to find their host. But we actually don't really know how strong that isolating factor is. What happens if a larvae goes to the wrong host, grows up, is it able to mate with the individuals there? We have no clue. So there's tons of questions that we can look at. Is it possible that coral host is such a strong isolating mechanism that they never came into secondary contact again, that we haven't even seen any sort of reinforcement between these species? Or have other mechanisms evolved, like mate choice or incompatibilities, physical or genomic? And we don't know how rapidly isolation evolves. We also don't, even though they're hermaphrodites, there could still be factors affecting incompatibilities that are relevant to whether their mother came from one coral and their father from another coral, or vice versa. We don't know anything about that. And something I'm most interested in is figuring out whether speciation occurred in the presence of gene flow. And so I'm curious to see if we can actually use some tests of reproductive isolation and try to detect whether or not reinforcement has been happening to figure that out. So I have some proposed crosses I'm going to do, and I don't even know when I'm going to do these. So if anyone is interested in collaborating on this in the future at some point, or just talking about the types of predictions I might find, we have a system where we've got allopatric species on the same corals, different corals. We have sympatric species on the same coral and on different corals. So there's a lot of different crosses we can do. We even have sympatric species that are on the same exact coral itself. So they definitely have some sort of barrier to reproduction there, and we don't have any clue what that is. So there's a lot to do in the system. If you think it's cool, come talk to me, and we can answer